Hello, my name's Colin Campbell, and it's a real pleasure to be here with you today to talk about social capital in isolated areas as a means to sustainable development. I'm Chief Executive of an organisation called Assist Social Capital, a community interest company, and today I want to talk to you about, give you an introduction to the organisation, talk about what social capital is, how it's relevant to sustainable development, talk about a case study where we use social capital in practice in Scotland, and touch very quickly on three other examples where we've used this approach. So as I said, Chief Executive of Assist Social Capital, which is a social enterprise based in Edinburgh, Scotland, set up in 2004. We've got a significant amount of connection with UNESCO Biosphere Reserves, which began in Sweden at Euromap 2011. I'm pleased to say that I was also part of MIDA's summer school in Athens in 2012. We developed a framework to introduce social capital and create social capital and biosphere reserves through social enterprises. We set up a working group in 2014 to focus on this and take it forward to the World Network. We got funding from the Scottish Government to develop an extended biosphere reserve in Wester Ross, attended the World Network of Biosphere Reserves initiative in Peru in 2016 at the Congress, and we produced a report in 2018, which is a culmination of most of this work. I thought this was a great quote to talk about what it is we're doing today. The future is not a place which we are going to, it's a place we are creating. The past and the future are not found, but made, and the activity of making them changes both the maker and the destination, perfect for what we do in biosphere reserves. This is information which makes us focus and realise the need to work together in order to achieve a sustainable future for everyone. So what is social capital? According to the World Bank, social capital is the missing link, that it needs to be added to the other forms of capital, natural, physical, and human capital. And without social capital, there can be no economic growth or human well-being. I think that's such a significant statement, and it's why we really need to learn about social capital and how to put it into practice. Through social capital, we can understand the social fabric, we can understand where the strengths and weaknesses are and use that to our advantage. We can use that to amplify local assets and deliver self-organisation. Importantly, also, it contextualises things by engaging local community, local people. It means that it's relevant to local culture and local context. We can also use it to measure impact and positive change. I think this is a fantastic photograph about what social capital is. It's about collaboration amongst all ages, no matter who people are, what their work is. This is the Castellers of Barcelona, and they go around the world building community using this cultural approach. OECD says that social capital is networks, together with shared norms, values and understanding that facilitate cooperation within and amongst groups. I said, a fantastic picture to demonstrate that, and also to underline the fact that trust is really critical to this whole issue of social capital. So there are 6 pillars of social capital. First of all is bonding, relationships within groups and a membership of groups. So the core membership in a biosphere reserve is the team that takes it forward. Bridging is reaching beyond that core group. It's about building bridges, not just focusing in on those people that are part of the membership. And linking is the need to reach out to people who are in a position of political or financial power in order to make things happen. Additionally, we need to have shared understanding. This is critical to lead to trust and mutually beneficial relationships. All of these 6 pillars make up social capital, and they all influence each other. You can begin at any point on this circle and you can achieve a positive outcome. So with Biosphere Reserves, obviously you've got the World Network's platform for what are the 3 elements of a biosphere reserve. You need to reach out and build connectivity amongst the people with that shared understanding, and that needs to be based on a shared approach which builds trust and mutually beneficial relationships. So we took this forward in Scotland. in an area in the northwest of Scotland, which began with an old style biosphere reserve which was only one mountain. And we eventually took in an area which was 550,000 hectares and 8,000 people. We used the Social Enterprise and Biosphere Reserve Development Framework to make sure that this work was going to be financially sustainable as well as environmentally and socially sustainable. To make it socially sustainable, we began with a vote on the 8th of March to make sure that local community wanted to take this forward. And on the day, there was a 99% vote in favour, which meant that there was local interest and we could go forward, and the designation had the possibility of surviving. We first carried out 6 months investigation, talking to people to find out what they wanted. If there had been no ideas, then again, the designation, no, there would not been sufficient interest and the designation would have been removed. Instead, what we found is that there was several ideas about projects from the people, with the people, about nurturing short supply chains, in other words, local food to bring down carbon footprint. We wanted to bridge lifestyles, expectations and diverse communities so that culture remained active. We wanted to build bridges to educational knowledge and sharing amongst the wider network of UNESCO biosphere reserves and preserve the biodiversity and improve the local waters. The aim of all of this was to build and encourage sustainable communities and not to have an over-reliance on tourism as a form of development, but much more diverse than that. The next phase was actually to go out and deliver these projects with specific aspects in mind, enabling young people to stay in the area. This is something which is critical to sustainable outcomes. We wanted a platform that would support diverse initiatives, as I said, not only tourism. We needed to connect with the landowners, something very important in the local context in Scotland, and move away from subsidies, hence the idea of businesses and social enterprises, and that this had to be long-term, not just another initiative, and involve people. So this is what we delivered within 12 months for under £100,000, so about €120,000, and that was presented to the Scottish Government in Paris and ratified in Peru in 2016. And so this is an example of how it worked. So we began bonding social capital. We reached out to other projects and businesses in bridging social capital. We connected with Scottish Government, national agencies like Forestry Scotland, Scottish National Heritage, who previously had not been willing to work together on this whole project. And it was a great success within only 12 months. By going to the World Network of Biosphere Reserves Congress in Peru, we were able to reach out and build linking social capital for Wester Ross Biosphere Reserve. We also began bridging by connecting with other biosphere reserves, Tosco Emiliano in Italy, in Cap Ba in Vietnam, where that was supported by the Vietnamese government, and the linking there led to them extending the Social Enterprise and Biosphere Reserve framework to cover the whole country and all 9 of their biosphere reserves. And in Ghana, we worked with Environmental Protection Agency to carry out a marketing research for 4 different local businesses in order to enable them to build their market presence and create local jobs to do with the likes of mushrooms and sustainable palm oil farming. You can read more about this work and other examples of social enterprises which create opportunities for local people to build sustainable futures in Oasis Biennial Report, which was launched in 2018. Here are some of the statistics. So 11 million turnover of these businesses, employment opportunities, 52% of them held by women. So just to summarise, social capital is about building strong relationships across diverse groups, including those people in a position of power and influence. It's about shared understanding and building trust and mutually beneficial relationships across a whole community. It's about making sure they're inclusive and diverse and sustainable in the long term. To find out more, we will give you a link to a example of a journal that we put together looking at sustainable development and biosphere reserves in Italy and Zambia. And just to remind you, we collectively need to work together to provide a mutually beneficial future for all. Thanks very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your course.